Hey, movie fans! Welcome to another episode of Retro Rewind. This is Demetri Panos, and still doing Halloween horror, which I started, it seems like, years ago, but it was just mid-September, because why not? And now I'm in the thick of things discussing Halloween and the Halloween franchise, sans the Rob Zombie movies. However, doesn't mean they won't be mentioned here in this podcast, in fact. So today, I've not got only one movie, but not only two movies, but three movies to talk about. Today, I'm going to break down the Jamie Lloyd trilogy, which includes Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I am going to do it today through a little bit of a different lens. At least I'm going to attempt to. I feel that the movies have been discussed, dissected, frontwards, backwards, upside down. But today I want to do it through the lens of not only just a fan, but through the lens of a movie reviewer, myself. And how opinions can change, not just for me, but for everybody. And I also want to do it via studio system creative exec breakdown. Okay. I want to go from Halloween 4, and by the time we get to Halloween 6, I want to talk about how we get there. How do you go from 4 to 6? Okay. So this is what I'm looking to break this down, talk a little bit about the creative process, and we'll go from, like, say, the good, the bad, and then the downright ugly. Okay, so let's start. I can't think actually of another franchise of movies that literally has as many restarts as the Halloween franchise does. Think about it, okay? We've got the first restart. You had Halloween 2, and then you have the first restart, which is Halloween 3. Now, Halloween 3 was a failed experiment, okay? I'm going to talk more about Halloween 3 next week. It'll probably feel like a year has gone by with the way things are going. But no, so Halloween 3 was a failed experiment, but it was a shot at restarting Halloween. And then we have restart number 2. Which is this trilogy I'm talking about today. It's Halloween's 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And then we have restart number 3, which is Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection, which I talked about last week. Please feel free, go back, take a look at those, because I go into depth of both those movies. And then there's a restart reimagining number 4, and that's Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2. And now we're at restart number 5 with Halloween 2018. So 5 restarts total, 4 of which nearly killed the franchise, and 1, well, that remains to be seen. Okay, but the 2018 Halloween at least looks very promising. We got 2 more movies to go on that one. One thing all these restarts prove, though, is you really can't kill the boogeyman. Audiences love Michael Myers, aka The Shape, aka the Boogeyman. So let's retro rewind back to the second restart of Halloween, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Right here. And 10 years ago, he changed the face of Halloween. Tonight, he's back. So, October 21st, 1988. is when that was released in the States. It was released by Galaxy International Releasing. Its budget was a mere $5 million, and it brought in $17.8 million. Let's just call it $18 million. So that's pretty good for that movie. The movie was directed by Dwight H. Little. Do you know what he was really most known for and popular for? Freeing Willy. Yeah, go figure. The guy that freed Willy is now working on a Halloween movie. The movie brought back the great Donald Pleasence. He reprised his role as Dr. Samuel Loomis. And it brought in Ellie Cornell as Rachel Carruthers. And it introduced American audiences or audiences around the world to a little Danielle Harris who played Jamie Lloyd. Now, that name, Jamie, was meant as an homage to Jamie Lee Curtis. I'll get into why that was an homage in just a little bit. And George P. Wilbur would don the mask as Michael Myers, and I'm going to talk about him in just a bit as well. So at this point, Michael Myers hadn't been on the big screen in 7 years. Halloween 2 had come out in 1981. This movie, Halloween 4, sets itself up as a direct sequel to the events of Halloween and Halloween 2, meaning it's been 10 years in movie time since Haddonfield last heard of Michael Myers. At this point, Jamie Lee Curtis had washed her hands for the series. So in true Hollywood fashion, what did they do? They kill off Laurie Strode. She and her husband, in fact, were killed in a car crash off camera and told through exposition, but she left behind a little Jamie Lloyd, her daughter. Jamie is now the adoptive daughter of the Carruthers. She has an older stepsister, Rachel, and only one blood relative, that being Michael Myers. As mentioned, the movie takes place 10 years after the events of Halloween and Halloween 2. It is October 30th, 1988. Michael Myers has been in a coma. And yet another transfer, lots of transfers, and you figured as time had gone on, they'd learned their lesson about transferring this guy. But this time from a hospital, and now he's going back to Smith Grove Sanitarium. The opening scene is actually one of my favorites in the entire franchise. Why? Because it is a dark and stormy night. The Smiths Grove ambulance arrives to pick up their transfer patient, and character actor Raymond O'Connor, in perhaps his best role as a security guard, he leads the care personnel, the folks who are picking up Myers, to where Myers lies in repose. This journey includes a long walk down a hall where you hear yelling and screaming of patients, and an elevator ride that goes down into a symbolic hell. Just before boarding the lift, the male attendant, reacting to one of the screeches coming out of one of the rooms, he just exclaims, "Jesus!" And then the security guard looks at him and says, "Jesus ain't got nothing to do with this place." It's great. It really sets the tone, the mood, and I just love the way that actor delivered the line. Well, our attendants pick up their transferee, and off they go into the growing storm. Suffice to say, they don't ever make it to Smiths Grove, and Michael Myers, after learning he has a niece in Haddonfield, a blood relative in Haddonfield, escapes one more time. Enter Dr. Loomis. He survived the explosion of 10 years ago, but scarred and wounded. He's still warning the world that won't listen about the evil that lurks amongst us. Well, not surprised Myers has escaped, Loomis heads to Haddonfield to once again square off against Myers, try to save Jamie and the town citizens of Haddonfield. Lots happening there. They were actually quite lucky that they got Halloween 4 made. Screenwriter Alan B. McElroy wrote the screenplay in just 11 days, and he turned it in just hours, and I mean hours, if not an hour, before a writer's strike was to take place, which it did. So script changes were made on the fly while filming, as were makeup and mask changes. Most notably, Donald Pleasence, his burn, he has a scar on his face. If you look closely, and you don't have to look that close, especially if you have a big TV, trust me, towards the beginning of the movie, you'll see what was affectionately called the fried egg. The scarring literally looks like a fried egg gone wrong. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me tell you. And they fixed it. They fixed it so as the movie goes on, somebody ate the fried egg. Also, they had a lot of problems with getting the mask right. As you may or may not know, the original mask was tossed after filming, and all people could use to try to do the masking, and starting with Halloween 2, is try to mimic it or resemble it through pictures. They didn't have the digital technology we have today. So getting the mask right, it never looked like the original. We'll just say that. So each movie has seemingly its own individual mask. Here, they were just trying hard to make that mask just even look good. You get a look. There's a scene in the movie. It takes place inside a school towards the end. You get a very quick glimpse of one of the aborted designs of this mask. I mean, you'll know it when you see it, folks. Michael Myers' hair is just platinum type blonde. I mean, it is blonde. It really sticks out. So what's the lesson learned here? Ladies, don't get your hair colored in Haddonfield. So I had said earlier, I wanted to talk about George Wilbur a little bit. He's a stuntman, and he's a really nice guy. I've seen him at horror and Halloween conventions. Between stunting and age, it's made him a little bit less mobile, but he always appeared with a smile and proud to be part of the Halloween franchise. I had a favorite story of his. Danielle Harris was but 10 or 11 years old while filming, and it was her first movie. And it was going to be a horror movie where she was going to be primarily chased by Michael Myers, the serial killer. Well, Mr. Wilbur went out of his way to befriend Harris. He never wanted Harris to be afraid of him. And he would always assure her that he wouldn't hurt her and that they were only making a movie, many times raising his mask so she would see his face. I always found that story to be extraordinarily sweet and a great insight to making movies and a man behind the mask. He would go on to play Michael Myers again in Halloween 6. Well, unfortunately for actress Ellie Cornell, she didn't get that same assurance about not getting hurt. Oh, not that George Wilbur was to blame, but while filming on top of a actual house rooftop, not a set, a scene where Jamie and Rachel are being stalked by Michael, Ellie slid down the rooftop right over a protruding nail. Ouch! She cut herself pretty good. She went to finish the scene, and then she went to the hospital. Now, think about this. It's pretty amazing when you think about how they were filming this movie. It's one thing for Tom Cruise to be doing his own stunts, but these are teenagers and a little 10, 11-year-old girl. They had them up on a rooftop. This is guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. So, director Dwight Little kept things simple in Halloween 4. While there's nothing flashy about Halloween 4, it does have a style and atmosphere to it that makes it the best of the Jamie Lloyd trilogy for me. So let's talk about the ending, because there's a lot of debate. A debate being people liking the ending, disliking the ending. So here we go. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm about to spoil it for you, so you can pause here, go watch the movie, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So Michael Myers is believed to be dead, and Rachel, Jamie, along with Dr. Loomis, they're back at the Carruthers household. So, a scene very reminiscent of the original's opening sequence. The audience is looking through the eyes of a mask, as Jamie's stepmom is drawing a bath for Jamie. We go into the bathtub through the eyes of this mask, and we see that Jamie's stepmom gets violently stabbed. You see the arms going up and down, and her mom's stab falls into the water. And then shortly after, it's revealed as little Jamie Lloyd is standing atop the stairs, bloody scissors, clown mask on, very reminiscent of the original. Standing atop the stairs, and then we get Loomis, Rachel, Sheriff Meeker, and Papa Carruthers staring up the stairs in shock, with Loomis screaming, "No! No! No!" And then the movie pretty much ends there. Now, it suggests there was a transference of the evil from uncle to niece. Now, again, some people liked it. I was kind of in the middle. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I didn't know where they were going to go with it. I wasn't quite sure that I was going to like having this 12-year-old girl become our new Michael Myers, so to speak. And, well, I will just say this, because we have 2 more movies to talk about. This was the first sign of where the narrative wheels get a little wobbly, and they become even more so with Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Now, Halloween 5 opened on October 13th, 1989, almost but a year apart from 4. Again, released by Galaxy Releasing. Its budget $6 million, and its domestic box office only 11.6. We can say 12. It was directed by a gentleman by the name of Dominique Othenin Girard. I hope I get that right. He's a Swiss-French filmmaker. Danielle Harris reprises her role as Jamie Lloyd. Ellie Cornell as Rachel, and of course, Dr. Pleasence. Should have been a doctor. Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, is a great example of a movie that doesn't stand the test of time, at least for me. Full transparency, when I first watched this flick, I actually enjoyed it. It looked different from the other Halloween movies by means of cinematography and editing. Scenes where Michael is stalking his prey I found to be very suspenseful and kinetic. Examples of that is when Michael's running down Jamie while he's in a car. They're going through cornfields. And also while Michael is hunting Jamie in his house and Loomis is looking to square off from Michael Myers. Now, I got to take an aside here. This house. It's to be Michael Myers' house. If you look at the first 2 movies where the house is featured and showcased, right? It's a 2-floor house. It's a simple house. Over here, it looks like they're living in a southern mansion. Now, granted, they did move. They changed locations to save money within their budget. They moved from, say, Pasadena up to Salt Lake City. But damn, couldn't the locations people at least find a similar kind of house other than this cavernous mansion that has 1 floor, 2 floors, an attic, laundry chutes, basements? It's a pretty stark difference to the actual Myers house in the Haddonfield that we were raised in, so to speak, since 1978. But I digress. So they added a new element in this movie. Well, actually 2. They added this man in black who arrives in town with boots and spurs, kicks a little dog, and he's seemingly following Michael Myers. Why? And then there's an introduction to a tattoo that's on the inside of Michael Myers' wrist. It's It's something that we've never seen before. It's a vertical line with a triangle on it. So, okay, I get you trying to do something a little bit different. I couldn't fault them for doing that, but could I? Because here's the deal. As the years went by and my annual viewings of the Halloween movies and watching of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, yes, I could end up faulting them for Halloween 5. So here's where I'm going into a little movie reviewing 101. I think one of the great things about reviewing movies is how one feels about a movie and how that perception can change. Maturity, immaturity, experience, perspectives, they all change, making the movie viewing experience evolve. So try to think of it this way. As a kid, there was probably a food you loved. And as you grew older, your palate changed and maybe you didn't like it anymore, or vice versa. There could have been a food that you hated, but as you got older, you really liked that food, right? The same thing goes for music. You could have hated something as a kid, and then when you grow up and somebody recommends something and you give it another try, you go, all right, yeah, I kind of get it. You change, right? It's all a good thing. Well, movies are no different, okay? There are movies I've watched years ago that I didn't like. As I grew older, watched more movies, I would watch said movie again or rewatch it, and I'd go, okay, I get it now, and I like the movie as opposed to really hating it. This happens all the time. Siskel and Ebert used to do episodes about movies that they've changed their opinion on. You'll always have movies that you love and you'll continue to love for the rest of your life. The same goes for the movies that you hate. The years won't make those particular movies any better, but there is a gray zone. There's a gray area, and let's face it, it's not a lot of movies, right? It's not a lot of movies this happens with, but it does happen. Why? Because you change as a person as well. And that's why there are those movies I liked when I was younger, and as the years went by, I just don't like the movie as much. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, is such a movie for me. And the more I watch it, the worse I get for me. Especially from a narrative and direction perspective. It definitely turned into style over substance flick for me. I still maintain the movie looks good. And those aforementioned scenes I talked about, they still work, still relatively suspenseful. But really now I'm of the belief that Dominic Athen-Gerard is at best, he's a second unit director. With Halloween 5, he really didn't know how to direct his actors. In fact, he did a really bad job in my opinion. The newcomers were mostly all annoying. And it's mainly Gerard's fault. Take, for example, actress Wendy Kaplan. She plays friend of Rachel named Tina. Now, according to Miss Kaplan, she didn't play Tina so, let's call it loud. It was Gerard who told her to take it up to 100 when she was playing her in maybe a 10. So, she did, sadly to her detriment, but in fairness, she was probably new to acting. She's listening to the director. She's not going to defy the director on this horror movie that's part of a popular franchise. And equally as annoying are the kids, groaning kind of annoying. So take Tina's boyfriend, Mikey. I'm not going to disparage the actor, but his character is such a jerk. You wonder what Tina is even doing with this guy. And as annoying as the character of Tina is, she is perhaps the most sympathetic of the new kids in Haddonfield. That says a lot. So Gerard tried too hard to make things different and his own. Being he had a hand in the script, his narrative choices are just head scratchers. One of the said choices, spoiler alert here, is the killing of Rachel Carruthers within the first 10 minutes of the movie. It was his Hitchcock moment. But Halloween doesn't need Hitchcock. It should focus on the victim. It should focus on the relationship between Loomis and Myers. It shouldn't be overly complicated. Halloween 5 becomes overly complicated. There is this tattoo, the man in black, and then the ending of this movie. Loomis finally captures Michael, and Michael Myers is in Haddonfield Prison awaiting, go ahead, guess, a transfer yet again. But before the transfer takes place, the man in black storms the police station a la like Terminator style and breaks out Michael Myers. And the movie ends with Jamie in the rubble crying, "No, no, no." And at this point, the lug nuts have popped off the rims and the wheels are about to spin off. Because then we get, on September 29th, 1995, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, this movie, I am specifically going to talk about the producer's cut. And I'll get to why in just a bit. As I said, this movie opened up in September 29th. It was released by Miramax Dimension Films. Its budget, $5 million. It had a domestic box office gross of 15.1 estimated. It was directed by Joe Chappelle. Again, reprising his role as Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasence, the great Donald Pleasence. And it introduces Paul Rudd, Ant-Man himself, in his first movie, Halloween movie, as Tommy Doyle. You remember Tommy Doyle, right? He's the little Tommy Doyle Laurie Strode is babysitting in 1978's Halloween. It also introduced Marianne Hagan as Kara Strode. A gentleman by the name of Mitchell Ryan was Dr. Wynn. Kim Darby from the original True Grit, original Star Trek episode, she was Deborah Strode. And J.C. Brandy as Jamie Lloyd. Specifically going to talk about the producer's cut of this movie. Going to talk about why there was a change in actors for Jamie Lloyd. But why am I going to focus on the producer's cut, which you can get, by the way, is you can watch a remaster if you have that box set of Halloween that I talked about. It was put out by the Shout Factory, has every Halloween movie, including the Rob Zombie movies. Great special features. They did a fantastic job putting the whole thing together. Even Halloween 6 has some decent special features. So, Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers, the producer's cut. That cut actually has a narrative, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Unlike the hot mess that was the theatrical version. But also, I want to talk about how the Hollywood studio system can break down and how story and movie go wrong. And again, I really think that this trilogy is a perfect example of that, because we start off pretty good and audiences couldn't wait for Michael Myers to be back. We go to, okay, what's going on here, to this movie. So the producer's cut, we learn it's been 6 years since the events that take place in Halloween 5. Michael Myers, Jamie Lloyd are considered missing and or dead. Loomis is retired, but is asked by a friend and caller, Dr. Wynn, to come back to be the head of Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Relatives of the Strodes are living in the old Myers house. Halloween, having been banned in Haddonfield, is going to celebrate the holiday for the first time in like 6 years. Both Michael and Jamie are actually alive and kicking, and that's literally for Jamie. Both have been held by a cult that is housed beneath the Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Jamie is about to give birth and her baby to be sacrificed to this cult with the help of a nurse, Jamie and baby escape, but not for long, as Michael Myers himself is hot on her trail. They end up in a barn. Michael stabs Jamie, leaving her for dead, but the baby is gone. Jamie is taken to a hospital. Search is on now for the baby, which is found by Tommy Doyle, who takes the child back to his boarding home. He happens to live across from Kara Strode, the Michael Myers house. He hooks up with Kara Strode and her son Danny. Tommy believes Myers is back in Haddonfield and going to do some real damage and murder. There's some wonderful exposition, by wonderful I'm being sarcastic, given by Tommy Doyle, who's been fixated on Myers since he escaped him in 1978. He explains this cult, what this cult is all about, and that they believe in this mark of thorn, that tattoo I mentioned earlier, the line with the triangle on it. It's based on some astrology and runes. Yeah, that's runes. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Jamie, while in a hospital bed, she's sleeping, she's trying to recover. She has a dream or flashback where we learn the baby she gives birth to is none other than Uncle Mikey's. Yeah, the baby is Michael Myers. And then she's killed by the man in black. Hi. While Loomis, trying to figure it all out, realizes Wynn is the cult's leader and they want to harness Michael's evil. You still with me? Because here's the deal. It's all bunk. Michael kills people in Strode's house. Kara and baby are kidnapped. Tommy and Loomis go to Smith's Grove. They come across the cult. Jamie and baby are there. They free Jamie and child. They get chased by Michael. Tommy literally freezes Michael with runes of light and saying the word Samhain, and Michael just freezes. They escape. Loomis doesn't go with them. He goes back and finds Michael on the floor. He pulls off the mask. And who is it? Lo and behold, it's Dr. Wynn, who tells Loomis he is now the guardian of Michael Myers, which you're probably saying to yourself, well, what the hell's he been doing for the past 16 years? He claims he's his doctor. Nobody listens to him. And now he's being told, you're his guardian. Oh, wait. He didn't have the mask of thorn on his wrist back then. Oh, well, now it magically appears. And we see Michael Myers dressed as the man in black leaving the hospital as Loomis screams. Boy, howdy. That's a breakdown of the producer's cut. Believe me, the theatrical cut has elements of that, but it goes off the rails with bloody gore, violence, and nonsensical plotting. How does this happen? The special features on that Blu-ray have two interviews, one with Malika Akkad and producer Paul Freeman, the other with Danielle Harris, and on why she didn't continue on as Jamie Lloyd. Now, it's very important to note that the interviews are fascinating. They're good, but you have to kind of read between the lines because what is said, well, someone's not exactly up on their facts, and you kind of have to try to figure out who that might be. Now, personally, I believe in what Miss Harris's assessment is and to what happened. I'll get on in just a moment. It is important to note that Akkad and Freeman interview, right? That it's important to note that Dimension, Miramax, Halloween here, it was, as they were putting it together, the rights to Halloween were up for bids. New Line, I believe, was one they mentioned, and then there was Miramax. Yes, it was run by those who we will not name. So Miramax wins the rights to Halloween, and their first movie is going to be Halloween 6, which has pretty much been filmed already. So they get Halloween. The powers that be at Miramax were not happy with this cut. This is pretty much the producer's cut. They ordered reshoots, and they literally took control of the picture. They took it away from Akkad, and I don't want to say they took it away from Chappelle. He was still very much a part of it, but Chappelle, you have to understand, he's the director. He wants to get this film made. It's hard for him to pick a side. And since Miramax now owns the rights, he's, if they're saying jump, he's got to pretty much be saying how high. So we have this going on, and then Miramax, the studio, furthermore, they want to lessen this whole story about the runes. It's in the theatrical cut for sure. It's discussed, but instead they try to cover up the narrative where they reshot kills, and they're way more violent, way more bloody. In fact, just unnecessarily so. And then comes up with an ending that it just makes no sense. Now, it should be noted, Donald Pleasence sadly passed away during the production of this movie. Now, if you watch the producer's cut, it pretty much appears as if he had filmed everything that they needed from him. He wasn't around for the reshoots. So they modify the ending, but again, you don't exactly know what the hell is going on, other than the fact that we hear off camera Loomis screaming. So Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, is a curse. I mean, it just, from a narrative standpoint, it doesn't work. And it's why I like the producer's cut a little bit more, because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There is a narrative, as dumb as it may seem. Now, we get this from the producers. Now, I want to talk about Danielle Harris and why I believe what she has to say a little bit more than, say, Akkad. Now, Akkad did address why Danielle Harris, she didn't come back on. And he said it was a breakdown in negotiations. Now, according to Harris, somewhat true, but not fully. I will give credit to Malik, because he does say it was a mistake. It was a mistake not bringing her back on board. Yeah, it really was. And it really was a mistake. I mean, because she was, at this point, she was already a fan favorite. Even if you didn't like Halloween 5, you like her. So, again, it's this breakdown, and we get less runes, yay, but more confusion, and it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. So, hearing Harris's side of things, it's a little bit different. So she claims her agent found out via a bulletin that they got a bulletin that says they're casting for Jamie Lloyd for Halloween 6, wanting an actress to be over the age of 18 and looking like, and lo and behold, there was a picture of Danielle Harris. So when Harris and agent see this, they go to the producers and they claim, well, Danielle Harris is only 17 years old. They were looking for an 18-year-old because an 18-year-old doesn't have to follow the same rules as anybody under the age of 18 as far as working long hours, working nights, having a teacher on set, all that stuff. But they threw her a carrot, and they said, according to Harris, hey, if you get emancipated and you could go out as an adult, we'll gladly have you back. So Harris, really wanting the role, she went and jumped through all the hurdles to become emancipated. She paid thousands of dollars to a lawyer to get this done. And in the end, she was told she would only be paid scale because her character really wasn't integral to the movie, and that the character dies in the first act, so it really is only a scale character. And this is a character that was pretty much a lead in Halloween's 4 and 5. Pretty sucky. So why do I believe what Harris is saying over that of Akkad and Freeman? Well, because in that same interview, Harris says of the script, because she gets the script, and she says, that's not Halloween. She basically went on to say, F you to the producers. I'm not playing, you're killing Jamie off within the first act? No. And reading the script, she's like, that's not Halloween. And that's a very key quote. And you know what? She's right. That's not Halloween. It's people not knowing or caring about Halloween. Look, they backed themselves into a corner at the end of Halloween 4. They further dug themselves into a hole in 5, and now in 6, they had to explain a tattoo and this man in black. And then that's what they came up with for 6. Supernatural astrological runes? I'm surprised it didn't come with an 800 number. So, this is truly a breakdown in the creative process. When you don't really have people who are aware of story, who have a passion for whatever the franchise may be, in this case, Halloween. This is where you get an actress who was a lead saying, that's not Halloween. That's not Halloween. And they didn't listen to the actress. Halloween at that point, by 6, pure type of money grab. They made their deal. They got money from Miramax, right? And then when you look at it again, I mentioned this when I talk about Halloween Resurrection. It's like people not caring about the characters. And that is sad to me. But it happens in Hollywood all of the time. So, when I said earlier in the podcast that I at least have a sense of positive with Halloween 2018, that's because it's in the hands of Blumhouse. Now look, you're not going to hear me say that every horror movie that Blumhouse puts out is fantastic, because they ain't. But for the most part, they put out some really good product, and part of that reason is their shepherding of the product. Them getting Halloween and knowing how big fans they are and working to get this done. They did so well on that script that's how they got Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter involved. It gives me hope that we're not going to get a redo of a Halloween 5 or a Halloween 6 or even a Halloween Resurrection. So that's why I wanted to talk, and I think it's very important. And again, I love the Halloween franchise. Even the bad movies, I'll rewatch them again for sure. But this happens in Hollywood. Don't believe me? Just think it's Halloween? What the hell is going on with Paramount and Star Trek? If you had people who could shepherd Star Trek and knew what Star Trek is, you might not have gotten Beyond, and we'd well have gotten a sequel to that already. Okay? There are a ton of examples. Die Hard's another great example. We would have never gotten the Mother Russia Die Hard if people actually paid attention to the franchise. And you have good people shepherding these franchise. Marvel, Kevin Feige and his crew, you know that they are key to story. Okay? Whether you love the Marvel movies or not, you can't say they don't pay attention to story. I wish a little more TLC were given in those Halloween movies, but I'm glad we're at the point where we're at. So I use Halloween today as an example for all of Hollywood. Creative executives need to be better. They need to learn better. They need to be schooled in storytelling and what's good. Like, when you're thinking runes and tattoos and the supernatural and this astrological stuff, not one person said, what the F are you doing? What does this have to do with Halloween? Like, you've taken this so far off the rails. And when it comes to franchises, more of that need be done. Now, it could be that people are afraid, lose their jobs, but hey, I would rather quality than quantity. At that point, I would rather it be given tender loving care and massaged to make better movies in Hollywood, especially when it comes to franchises. Pay attention. Get fans who truly know the franchise and the characters and what makes them tick. So, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. But I just felt that this trilogy, the Jamie Lloyd trilogy, is very important to use as an example because it's indicative of all of Hollywood. Not just horror movies, but all of Hollywood. So there you go. I did have a chance, however. I should tell you. I had a chance. I met Danielle Harris herself. Okay? I met her at a convention. Yes, I know it's a shadow box for Halloween 5. Okay, so I may not like the movie as much, but I love this shadow box. And you can see that is her autograph right there. She was so sweet and kind. And I actually did get to tell her, man, you shouldn't. I know years have passed, but I hope you're over not being in Halloween 6 because I think you dodged a bullet. So she credits not being in Halloween 6 for her getting into the Rob Zombie movies. Okay, but in any case, so, but as I'm talking Halloween 6, I would be very remiss if I did not talk a little bit about Donald Pleasence. I had mentioned he had passed away during the production of this movie. And look, Dr. Samuel Loomis, that was his character. That is an iconic movie character. It is an iconic horror character. He is what Van Helsing is to Dracula. Now, his movie legacy is huge. It includes playing Blofeld in James Bond's You Only Live Twice. He became a friend of Carpenter, who used him a couple of times. The Great Escape. Well, he was in The Great Escape, but for Carpenter, he was in Halloween, Escape from New York, which is a great escape, The Prince of Darkness. He was in John Badham's Dracula, which I talked about a few weeks ago. And so many more movies. Look, as bad as some of the Halloween movies might be, again, we all have varying opinions. The one thing that was a constant, at least the ones that were with Donald Pleasence, he never phoned it in. The evil is gone. He always had quotes. As a matter of fact, that was the boogeyman. And he took it seriously. Yes, he took a paycheck. But I never felt as Dr. Loomis, even as he aged, I never felt that Donald Pleasence was taking this for a paycheck. I do truly believe he didn't mind coming back to this franchise. He's very much missed. Very, very much missed. So I wanted to give a proper rest in peace, Donald Pleasence. You were fantastic. I will always remember you. You were fantastic as Dr. Loomis, one of the best characters in Hollywood history, particularly in the horror genre. He gave shape to what Michael Myers would become. So that's it for today. Wow. Got a lot of movie talking in. Took down 3 movies. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you walk away with something maybe a little bit different. I hope you walk away with looking at things differently and being like, okay, that your opinion might change, and don't be afraid to tell people about your opinion changing on something. Remember, it can happen. We're all people. We all hopefully evolve. Maybe some of us devolve. I don't know, but your opinion will change. So nothing should be set in stone. And 2, just know that the movies you loved as a kid, many of those, a majority you still love today, and you still rewatch. The movies you hated, many will. You'll still hate them as you get older, but there are some movies in that gray area, as I said. Remember that. Your opinion is never etched in stone. That's what makes us better people, I think, is when we can change. So I wanted to thank Scott Menzel putting these links up so that you can see it live, and then it's up in perpetuity on YouTube. Also, wanted to thank the Hollywood Critics Association for having me as a member. It's great. I love being a part of it because it allows me to talk to you about movies. Please support me on Twitters and the Instagram. It's the same handle. It's at Demetri Panos. So, right? So it's that @ DEMETRIPANOS at Demetri Panos for both. Hit me up. Put some comments on YouTube. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the movie. Let me know if there's a Halloween movie that you hated and now you've watched it and you love it, or vice versa. I want to know. Okay? So, until next week, where I will be talking about the Halloween 3 and what that whole thing was about. And again, another movie that, for me, my opinions changed as the years got on, and I'll tell you why next week. Also talk about Halloween 2 and working down to the original John Carpenter's Halloween 1978, in my opinion, masterpiece. Thank you for tuning in and staying with me and listening. Look forward to talking to you very soon about more movies. Take care. Stay safe.